Why do some people find fault all the time? I'm Daniel Jennings, and today we're going to find out the answer to that question. We all know someone like this. Anytime they get the opportunity to point out the faults or the flaws or the sins of someone else, they take that opportunity. They love to find out the bad things that other people have done and then go around to everybody else and point out those bad things and in such a way that it makes that other person look really bad. Well, the root of this actually is that that person feels inferior. And as they feel inferior, they feel like they're very low, and they want to drag everybody else down to their low level. And so they kind of get like an emotional kind of high from pointing out the flaws and the faults of other people. It makes them feel better because they can say, well, I've never done that. I've never robbed a bank. I've never, committed this evil act or that evil act. I've never committed that sin or anything like that. Hey, I'm a much better person than they are. I'll give you a perfect example. I know an individual that from the time he was a child until an adult, he, in different ways, he seems to have had it drilled into him that he was inferior. He was raised in a community where, there were kind of the upper class and the lower class, and he just happened to be a member of the lower class, and it was really reinforced into him that if you're down here, then, you're on a level below those who are up here. And, he just was born down here, and so he grew up thinking, I'm not as good as these people up here. When he became an adult, he ended up working a job, where he works at. He probably has, maybe the lowest paid position in the office that he works in, and it's a job that nobody really wants. It's a job that, people look down upon. And what I noticed about this individual is that, every opportunity he gets to point out the faults and the flaws of someone else, he takes that opportunity. If he finds out some dirt on somebody, he is going to go around telling, probably anybody that will listen. Now obviously this is wrong, for a number of reasons. We don't find fault to build ourselves up. We don't find fault to make ourselves feel better. That's just absolutely wrong. It's not wrong to find fault, per se. Sometimes we have to find fault. You don't want to live in a world where nobody finds fault. Because if nobody ever points out the wrong things that other people are doing, then other people are going to keep doing those wrong things, and then other people are going to follow their example, and the level of wrongdoing is just going to completely spiral out of control to where we have an even greater level of chaos than we have today. If it wasn't for those individuals around the world that are actually calling out, the things that are being done wrong, the world would be a much, 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 much worse place than it is. So, it's a good thing to find fault. But we need to make sure that we're doing it for the right reasons. There are two reasons, really, to find fault that are righteous reasons. Making yourself feel better is not one of them. But, the first right reason is because you want to help other people. You go to someone who's doing something that they shouldn't be doing, and you're like, hey, look, I care about you. I see that you're making these decisions. If you keep making these decisions, you're going to end up down here where you don't want to be. So I just want to encourage you, let's make these other decisions so you can end up here where you want to be. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a noble thing. That's helping someone improve their life. And the other is to find fault with someone in the sense of that you're pointing them out to others and saying, don't follow their example. For example, the guy down the street, maybe you read in the newspaper that he has stolen $10 million from the company that he worked at, and now he's going to prison. Well, there's nothing wrong with telling other people, look at so-and-so and what he did. Don't make the mistake that he made. That's a noble and a virtuous thing. You're trying to help someone keep from going down the wrong path. In both of those cases, you're trying to help someone become and be a better person than they are or they might be. That's a good thing. But when a person goes around finding fault to make themselves feel better, what I notice, it's a terribly wicked thing. Because what I notice is that those people generally don't have much concern for the person that is doing the wicked thing, or for those that he's talking to persuade them not to do that wicked thing. They really don't care about those people. What they care about is themselves, and in propping themselves up, making themselves feel superior, making themselves feel better about themselves. But that's wrong on just so many levels. It's just wrong to do that. If we find fault with other people, it needs to be because we find fault either to help that person or to help others not to make the mistake that other person made. Now, when we deal with these people that are always finding fault and they're doing it for the wrong reason, the best way to help them, I think, is to help them realize, what they're doing is wrong, and that, it's actually very prideful and very selfishly motivated. They're using someone else's wrong actions, someone else's sins, to help themselves feel better. So they're actually profiting, in a sense, from someone else's sins. I mean, what a wicked thing. I mean, how could anybody think that that's a righteous thing? So, the best way to help people in a situation like that is, I think, is, to help them to realize, they're not on inferior or superior because of, whatever it is, that has made them feel inferior, whether it's because they have a low-paying job or they have, they grew up poor, or, have relationship problems or whatever. They're trying to find their value in these things that do not give them value. Their value comes from the way that God views them. Does God view them as a righteous and an upright and an honest person? Or does God view them as a wicked and a sinful person? If they will, look at life that way, they'll stop feeling inferior like they are, and God will begin to deliver them from that. And and they'll realize they don't need to put other people down to feel better about themselves. They'll feel better about themselves because they know how God thinks of them. So that's why people find fault sometimes. The kind of people that are always finding fault, that's why. There's something inside of them that they need to let God change, and they need to change their way of looking at. And if they'll do that, they won't feel the need or the desire to find fault like they did before. I'm Daniel R. Jennings, and this is another life lesson.